All right, hi, welcome back to Maya. Today's video is going to be a shorter one. I'm just going to explain what well, not all of them, but most of the different parameters that are here under the AI standard surface. I'll, I'm, I'm going to try to explain what a lot of these things are. Not everything, but I'll try to give you a good idea so that you can use more than just the color metalness, specular roughness, and the normal maps in your models and renders and stuff. I'm gonna start at the top here. Okay, I just have like a very simple scene with just a ground plane, a cup, a skybox that I colored using a ramp, and a single area light so that I can have some shadows and stuff. You should all know what the first set of things here are. So anytime you see this weight slider, that is the percentage of how much this like tab will be affecting the texture or the part of the material. Metalness, you know what this is. It's how reflective something is. If something is like super shiny and clean and reflective, like a polished tea kettle, for example, that's made of aluminum, it'd probably be like almost 100% metal. And diffuse roughness is just how rough that metal is. But we don't really use diffuse roughness at all in our rendering. We just use specular roughness, which I believe you should know how this one works as well, since you've used it. And same for the weight and the color. The color map, it will determine the colors of the reflections in your specular reflections. This is like for shiny or more plasticky things, or if you have something that's made of more organic materials, like it's not metallic but you want it to be reflective, like say your fingernails probably, then it would have very little specular roughness, or it would have a lot if it's like your skin, for example. The IOR thing here, this is the index of refraction. There's a lot of goofy light science and math and physics that goes into it, but it's just the angle at which light is refracted in the reflections of something. Anisotropy and rotation, I don't need to cover those because that's just like just rotates your texture, and anisotropy is I don't even know what that means, to be honest. Transmission is the next one. This one's pretty fun. This is how you make glass in like see-through objects. You'll notice that if you set the weight of the transmission all the way to 100%, you can't actually use the base color of your object anymore, because if I do a little preview render here with the Arnold viewport renderer, you'll be able to see that it's totally see-through. And I can like decrease the roughness if I want it to be more see-through. It'll be a bit noisy at first because the way that the viewport renderer works is it just takes everything in like steps. I could like, let's see, where was I? If I lower the transmission, then it's only like partially see-through, or it's like tinted glass, for example. Like say maybe you have like partially see-through plastic cup that you want to have. Maybe you set it to 0.5 or something. I don't know. The IOR, index of refraction here, this will matter a lot for determining what type of see-through material you have, because everything has a different IOR, like glass and ice and water, they all have different IOR values. There are some resources online that you could find about like the IOR of like all these different common materials. Like I have it set to 2 because that is the IOR of glass. If you want it to be water, then it'd be 1.325. at that degree Celsius. If you've ever heard of the phenomenon known as Snell's window, this is actually a byproduct of of water's index of refraction, which gives it this like appearance of like, oh, it can only reflect off of things that are seen at so far of an angle before it um, becomes like opaque rather than see-through like that. That's probably why you'll notice at like the edge of your glass, I want to deselect the background, things get less and less see-through, and they start to get more reflective of the things that are around them. Like if I were to go back in here, now I were to change the IOR to be that of water, which is 1.325, then you'll see it has a slightly different effect than before. Okay. Transmission, all these other things, like the depth, this is another like refraction thing. This like gives you like how much distortion is going to be in your thing. Like if you want to have a magnifying glass, then you'd mess with that a bit. Scatter, this is just how much light scatters. I should look up the definition of the word anisotropy, because I don't actually know what that means. Oh, it's that thing. Okay. Yeah, I'm not worried about that because I'm not working with large textures and materials. Yeah, scatter, that's how light scatters. If your roughness of your material, specular roughness, is not enough for making your glass be really like, maybe it's like frosted glass, then under transmission you can add even more roughness. Now it's like hardly even glass anymore. I don't know, it kind of just looks like a weird reflective cylinder. I don't need that, so I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to turn off the glass effect now. So subsurface. So if you've heard of subsurface scattering before, you probably know that it's just how light scatters like through your skin and fingers. Like if you ever hold a flashlight up to your finger, you can see like a red light coming through it. That's because the light is scattering under the surface of your skin, as the name of the word would imply. Like if you had a hand model rather than a cup, maybe this would be more important. But it's also nice if you have like a wax substance, because wax might have a bit of subsurface scattering to it. The color map, usually if you're making like a person, probably just set it to whatever the color of their skin is, but a bit more red and blushed. But I'm not making. You'll see once this like gets more rendered, it'll look like it's a candle made of wax, because I have the subsurface set to like half. I'm gonna turn that off. Coat. This one is kind of like a subtractive or multiply layer sort of thing. It is similar to the next one, which is called sheen. Not sheen as in a person's name, but a sheen as in like having a color on the edges of your thing. It's like this one is more of like an overlay effect. If you have something made of velvet, having a sheen attribute to your velvet material would be a very good effect. You probably want to change the color of it to be whatever your velvet looks like in real life. Maybe it's like red and pink rather than blue and red. I like how I have it here. I just have it there so you can see it more clearly. And you can change like the roughness of all this stuff, and you can change the IOR of the coat layer if you'd rather have it be subtractive. Emission. This one, it makes your object glow. If I set it all the way to max, you'll see this cup becomes a light bulb. But like, say I only want part of my cup to glow, Susanna. I want just like a glowing pattern on a cool sci-fi gun I'm making. Well, you can have an alpha map that will affect the which parts of it glow. So since I have my cup already UV mapped here, I can show you what it looks like. I have it so that the UVs are straightened so that they're not like curved, despite it being a not graduated. Is it a graduated cylinder? I don't know. It's a cylinder that is smaller on the bottom, but I straightened the UVs out so things are only a tiny bit distorted. I can go into the emission weight here. I can add a file, and we black it first, but I'm going to add an alpha map. I have this very silly doodle of a character I have that I turned into an alpha map by just taking this into Photoshop and like the UVs on top of it, and making it black and white. So I have that image in here, cecilballin.jpg alpha. Cecil's their name. You're going to want to set the thing to alpha's luminance for this effect. So yay, now we have a glowing image of my little character on the surface of this cup. It's a little bizarre. Maybe I can make it semi-transparent, or I can change the color of it as well, if it will let me. Ooh, neon pink. I'm gonna turn that off. Okay. Thin film. This one is what you want to use if your object is particularly like oily or soapy. This might look better if I have it the color set to like something very dark. Yeah, you can see a bit in the render that it makes it very like kind of iridescent. If I shine a bit more light on it, you can see it better. Yeah, it gives it like an iridescent effect out of the thin film. If you have like a bismuth that you want to put in your scene, then you could use this thin film effect and change the index of refraction. Oh my gosh, the garbage truck scared me. And set the IOR to be whatever it is in here. I don't know, I can't find. Is it in here? Bismuth? I don't see it. Well, there's barrel. It's pretty close. Beer? Okay. If you want, I can link this website in the description. It just has a bunch of like research on what the IOR of different materials are. Now geometry. So there are actually two things under geometry. There is the opacity of your object, like how just like this is different from the transmission because the transmission turns it into glass. This one makes it like ghosty, like maybe it's a wisp, so it's just only like partially there. Maybe if you had like a sheer piece of clothing, you'd have the opacity partially there rather than using the transmission attribute. I'm going to turn off the thin film thing and turn this blue color back up. So for geometry, you know how normals work. You've all assigned a normal map. You've set it to tangent space normals to do your purple, the weird purple thing that Substance gives you. And you assign that. Don't forget, you can actually change the depth of your normals. Like, say you have a wood grain normal map, but it looks like, when you actually do the render, it looks like it's way more intense than like a normal wood grain table would be. You can change the bump depth to lower that a bit. But that would be the standard space normals. I'm gonna do just a very simple, like old school bump map rather than the new, more advanced um, tangent space normal maps that we do nowadays. I want to break that connection. If you have a file attributed to something that you want to get rid of, just right click on the text where it says like bump mapping or opacity or anything there and do like break connection. I'm just going to do like a noise map for the bump map. It looks super goofy. But I can decrease like how intense it is. Maybe I have a slightly bumpy plastic cup to make it more grippy. And I can go into this noise map and I can change the attributes of it to make it be more grainy or not. It'll take a bit longer because normal maps take a long time to render properly. And I can increase it so you can see the more dramatic effects of it. Maybe I'll set it to be super noisy so it looks like that. That looks gross. That is a gross looking cup. It looks like it has scales. Okay. I'm just gonna break the connection on that because it looks gross. Now opacity you also can have a alpha map for. So like say I want this floor texture here to only be partially transparent. I can do an opacity map and I'm just going to use a ramp for this. I want the ramp to be circular. I want to reverse the black part and the white part. It's like, hey, if you want to have a simple ground effect for your renders, maybe you could just make a plain simple like that and do an opacity ramp on it. And it will have this little kind of glowing spotlight effect in space rather than making a whole thing. I have done this before for some simple models if I just want to show off the model itself and not worry about the stuff around it. Now the last one we're coming to is the matte effect. This one just disables how light interacts with it. Just makes it solid gray. Hi roommate. I'm looking at Arnold materials. Yeah, recording. But I think I'm done looking at all the attributes now. Oh, right, no, I wanted to look at how layers work. So I am going to assign new material to this. I'm doing AI layer shader. Oh, I want this first input to just be what I had before, just the existing material. Can I get it? Do I have that existing material somewhere? Ugh. I don't want to assign a new one to it. Okay. Well, I already have a different layer shader thing going on. So you can also have alpha maps with this. Wait, what? Oh, okay. It took a while to update in the attribute editor. You can actually also have alpha maps in your, if you use a layer shader like this, like say this for this input is just like the cut base I was working on earlier. And I can go in and I can edit it and I can turn it into glass again. so it can look like that. You can see I already have here is a second layer that is just another material that I've made that's just called AI Standard Surface 4. I just used a preset from here to make it into gold. So I have like a sort of gold leaf inlay sort of appearance on my crystal glass if I want to be super fancy. If you want to have like a second layer, sort of like that, or maybe I could make this part glow. Like say I could go into emission and take this part all the way up. Like if you don't want to have it all one material, you can split it up into different layers and you can enable and disable them as you please. If you are wanting to be super advanced with your materials. Beyond that, at least for this class and your rendering stuff that you're going to do for this one, I don't think there's anything that's much more important than that to know. So I'm going to end my recording right here. If you want to, you can try to make a glass like this with your own little alpha map that has a doodle on the surface and send it on to use. If not, I won't be surprised because I don't know how many people actually watch these videos. Okay. Bye-bye for now.